Welcome to our podcast, Taking Life by the Horns.
And take no bull.
Today we're going to talk about gaslighting, understanding and dealing with it, and really knowing what gaslighting is. So gaslighting, just for a brief description, gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where someone makes you question your own reality, memories, or perception. It can lead to confusion, self-doubt, and a loss of confidence. So how many times have you said something and someone's like, you never told me that? You're like, I swear I said that. You never told me that. That's gaslighting, if you really did. So we're going to talk about what it is. We had some definitions of it. We'll break down the definition better.
I wanted to add, too, that gaslighting actually creates a dependency on the perpetrator. Because you tend to doubt yourself so much, you depend on the perpetrator to tell you how you feel, what your perception is, what the reality is, because you tend to think, oh, I'm forgetful. Oh, my memory isn't so good. And you depend on the perpetrator to give you your reality, which makes it really dangerous.
Right, definitely. So there are signs when you're being gaslighted. Withholding information from you, that's something that will be gaslit. They just don't tell you certain information, withholding it.
If they withhold their information, then again, you have to depend on them for information, or they can say, oh, I told you and you just don't remember.
Right. Pretending to not understand you or refusing to listen. That would be a sign of withholding information from you. Countering, questioning your memory of events. You are remembering that wrong. You just have a bad memory. That's not how it happened. That's gaslighting.
Distracting. This is one of my favorites because they tend to say, you know, I love you and I would never hurt you. Why would you think that? So they're now distracting from the situation and making you question, oh, why would I think that? They do love me, right? So it becomes really dangerous when they start distracting you from the situation that you're arguing about.
And so then you just go off into something totally different. You don't even realize you were just gaslit. Trivializing it, belittling your feelings or your concerns. You're just being dramatic. Quit being a drama queen. It did not happen like that.
You're overly sensitive. You're too emotional.
Yeah.
So what happens? Then you start to hold your feelings, your needs, your thoughts. You start to hold all of that in because you don't want to be ostracized for it.
Yeah. Denial, refusing to take responsibility for their actions. It never happened.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do that. I didn't say that. What? No. Yeah. They completely recreate reality sometimes.
Go ahead.
Another thing they do is blame shift. So this is all your fault. It's a misunderstanding because you did X, Y, and Z. So you're to blame for this situation.
Yeah, more deflection.
They discredit everybody. They think you're crazy. They'll tell you, in fact, that everybody thinks you're crazy. Everybody thinks you're overly emotional. Everybody thinks you're hard to deal with. So they'll start discrediting you by making you believe that everybody else thinks you're crazy as well.
To the point you start to believe, am I crazy? Did I say that? What am I missing here? Yeah, you might be gaslit.
And what happens with that, too, is after you hear that enough, you go out into public and you cross paths with these people, right? Your partner might say, such and such thinks you're crazy. So now you're crossing path with such and such, and you're thinking, oh, gosh, they think I'm crazy. Oh, gosh, right? Maybe they didn't. I'm sure they didn't say it at all because it's usually what happens. It's a complete lie. But now you are living very small and very quietly. And you are very self-conscious about yourself because you don't know really what everybody is thinking about you in public because you've been told everybody thinks you're crazy.
Your reality has been distorted.
Yeah. They also tend to pit people against one another. And this is another telltale sign because what they love to do is instigate problems. And then they love to come in as the hero. And they love to be the savior. They love for everybody to look at them for all the answers, right? Because they end up being the middleman between people. They kind of keep people separate, start those problems, and then everybody depends on them for the answers and to fix it.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what's really going on because nobody else is talking except to the perpetrator.
Yeah. Such and such said.
Another thing they use are loving words. So as weapons. So they'll say, I would never hurt you on purpose. I would never cheat on you, right? You know how much I love you. I would never do that to you. So they're using loving words to make you feel bad and make you feel guilty and make you question how you really feel.
How could you even think I would do that to you? We went through the signs of being gaslighting, but now let's go through and recognize what happens to you when you've been gaslit, because you start to have self-doubt. You frequently second-guess yourself and your decisions, because now you don't believe that anything that you've been saying or been told is true. So you have a total questionable reality. What's real, what's not. So it causes some self-doubt. It makes you feel like you are crazy, that you are the crazy one. You're overly sensitive. Your perceptions are wrong.
And you tend to apologize for everything.
Mm-hmm.
You end up thinking that you really are to blame for everything because you are overly sensitive. So you start to apologize. I know I'm overly sensitive. I know I'm overly emotional. I know I'm really needy. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're apologizing constantly when you haven't done anything wrong.
No.
You're confused. You often feel confused, disoriented, and like you've lost your sense of reality.
And this leads to loneliness. So this goes back to something I mentioned earlier, is as you're going out into the world and crossing paths with people, you feel very alone and very passive because in your head, you are thinking you're all these things, that something's wrong with you because you're so sensitive and overly emotional and crazy and needy and all these things. And so you tend to live very small, feel very alone.
Mm-hmm. You isolate yourself because if your reality isn't true, it's not real, it's confusing to be out there, it's easier just to isolate.
And this is where I think we begin to try to cover it up by being something we're not, right? We try to put on a happy face and pretend things are okay, and we're not the crazy people that everybody around us seems to think we are, right? So then we start living almost like kind of a double life, right? Yeah. We're not even who we truly are because we become ashamed of who somebody is telling us we are. It's not who you are, but you start to believe it, you become ashamed of it, and you start living differently.
Yeah, you lose your confidence.
Your identity.
Just have a lack of confidence. Mm-hmm. You have trust issues. So you can't trust anybody because you don't know who's lying to you and who's not lying to you. You can't even trust yourself. Yeah. So serious trust issues.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I put emotional instability. You experience frequent mood swings, anxiety, and depression.
Yeah. And all these things can cause health issues in addition to this. So all of these things can cause high blood pressure, heart disease, because it really takes its toll on your body. As you know, it's a very strong form of abuse.
Even weight issues, because a great way to isolate, we think, is to sit at home, watch TV, and eat some snacks. And then that can cause a whole realm of issues, of health issues.
Yeah, when you're depressed, thinking you're all of these horrible things about yourself, how do we fill those voids and comfort ourselves?
Yeah, and that's part of the goal of the manipulator. So we'll talk about that. Why are they gaslighting you? So if they can make you feel insignificant, if you can isolate, then it's keeping you all to yourself. Because if somebody sees just how amazing and great you are, well, they're not worthy of that. So if somebody else sees that, they're going to convince you of it and maybe take you away. And that's why narcissists will gaslight you.
Yeah, they definitely don't want you realizing your own worth and your own value. They definitely don't want you stepping into your power and saying, hold on a second. You know what? I don't care that I'm asking for A, B, and C, and you portray it as needy. These are my needs, and I'm okay with needing these things. Because if you're stepping out into public talking to other people and people are like, that's not okay, or I don't see that about you, or I never said that about you, you'll come home and start standing up for yourself. They don't want that.
No, because then they lose control. Yeah. And control is very serious. They want to control your behaviors, your thoughts, and your emotions.
And that's how they keep you where you are. That's how they keep you isolated, alone, passive, and believing all those things about you. It's all about control, because really the people acting out gaslighting tactics
Mm-hmm.
really are people who don't have self-worth within themselves, and they need to do something to make sure you stay. This is really what I want people to know. The gaslighter perpetrator feels really bad about who they are and don't even think they're worthy of you. So they have to break you down to make you believe that you can't do better and aren't better and stay with them.
Yep. Manipulating you into believing that they're the best you'll ever do and the best you're ever going to do. You can't even, I don't know, cook a simple meal for me. This tastes like crap. I cannot believe you would make this for me. Maybe the best meal you've ever made. Anything that you do, it's not going to be enough, because the more they can knock you down, the better they feel about themselves, and the more that you're likely to stay.
Another tactic they use, and I had forgotten to mention this, is they do minimize achievements too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do something, you accomplish something, you receive an award, they minimize that with, oh, that's great, but you could have done better. Oh, you got third place. You could have got first, or, maybe next time. So they really minimize a lot of your accomplishments and achievements too. They don't recognize them.
Yeah. I mean, they can gaslight you there to make you believe you didn't even have an achievement.
Yeah.
That, they give an award to everybody. Yeah. That's a participation prize.
Yeah.
They just feel bad for you. So they gave you that first place trophy because, they just feel so bad.
They know who you are.
Yeah. So that would be a way to gaslight you into believing you didn't even receive such an award that you were very well worthy of.
Yeah. You start to believe you're not deserving of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what we do when we feel like we're gaslit. So we've talked about what it is, why they do it, but let's really talk about how can we deal with it. So we need to trust our own feelings, trust our instincts, acknowledge your emotions, and trust your perception. If something feels off, it probably is. Your gut instinct is usually correct.
Yeah. I mean, for me, this is really where self-trust and boundaries come into play. As somebody who has recovered from a lot of these toxic and abusive type tactics and behaviors and relationships, I can tell you the reason I was allowed to be gaslit is because, one, I didn't trust myself, and two, I didn't have boundaries. So had I had those two things, I wouldn't have been able to be gaslit. And I can tell you today, good luck gaslighting me. I'm going to call you out on it pretty quickly because I'm not going to tolerate somebody telling me that I'm overly emotional. Yeah, I don't care that I'm overly emotional. If that's how you feel, that you need to deal with that. But these are my needs and how I feel. And I'm perfectly okay with that.
Setting boundaries is huge. Document everything. So if you think you're being gaslit, write it all down. They'll tell you have a bad memory, you're remembering that wrong. But if you have notes of it and write down what actually has happened, that's a good way to begin to start trusting your own feelings.
There's a movie out called Gaslight, and it's from 1944. And if you truly are somebody out there who is a part of these toxic relationships, I highly recommend you watch the movie. I watched it years and years ago thinking, it's a 1944 movie. What am I going to get out of this? No pun intended. It lays it out black and white. A lot of times these perpetrators will actually physically do things. They'll hide things from you. They'll, empty out a water. Say you're watering your dog, they'll empty out the water bucket and say, why didn't you water the dog? I did, but they've emptied it out. So they will do lots of things like that to make you really feel like you're crazy. And the movie Gaslight really lays out all these different tactics in black and white for you. So you'll identify with them. Like I was watching the movie and I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen that. Oh, I feel that. Oh, and you have such empathy for this woman who is being gaslit by her husband, who does crazy things. He crawls in the attic and will make noises and flicker. This is why it's called gaslight, is because he will flicker the lights. Back then it was gas. Mm-hmm. And she would say, oh, I heard somebody in the attic and the lights were flickering. And he'd say, you're just crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. You're losing your mind, right? And it was him all along making her feel like she was crazy.
And I mean, that's a severe case of gaslight. It doesn't have to be that severe for you to be gaslit, but it can be for sure. And there's all different stages of it.
And I think the other thing we need to recognize too is like we've listed out all these different tactics that people can use to gaslight you. And to a degree, I think so many people in society use some of these tactics to a smaller degree. I think the difference is here the intention behind it, right? The intention of somebody who really wants to control and manipulate you. Some other people use it to deflect emotion and deflect responsibility to a degree, but eventually will come around, as where somebody who is intentionally gaslighting you will take no responsibility. They know what they're doing. They know they're doing it because if you figure out the truth, you're going to leave them and they're going to be left high and dry, and they don't want that.
Yeah. So another thing you can do, we talked about setting boundaries, seek support. So talk to your trusted friends. They probably see it. I had this case once where I was having a conversation and they said that I said XYZ. And I'm like, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I know I did not say that. And I happened to have a friend there and she told me later, she's like, you did not say that. 100% absolutely. That never came out of your mouth. So talk to your friends, seek their help. They may see it. They may help you recognize that you are truly being gaslit and give you that support and that confidence you need that you're not the one that's crazy.
I will say, as I started removing myself from these situations, I did go back and connect with certain people and have these conversations. And I will say, this is how I know a lot of times it's lies. If somebody says to you, George thinks you're crazy, George didn't say that, more than likely. And if you go back and talk to George and ask George, George will be like, what are you talking about? I never said that. So yeah. Don't be afraid to stand up and don't be afraid to question everything.
Yeah. All of it. Yeah. And educate yourself. So you obviously, if you're here listening to the podcast, you want to know more about gaslighting, continue. There's a lot of good resources. Educate yourself on it, on the psychological abuse, because that's what it is. So make sure that you're educated and stay calm. So they want you to just ignite and go crazy. That's how they know they won. Do not let them win. Just stay calm. Even if you're questioning, well, maybe this is true, maybe it isn't true. Just keep that to yourself. Just stay calm in the moment and then, meditate on it later with some friends.
Because that's all that's going to do is support their accusations that you're crazy, right? You lose your mind. And trust me, I have been there and I gave somebody every reason in the world to call me crazy. But all it did is validate and support the accusations being hurled at me that I was crazy and, insecure, overly sensitive, overly emotional, all those things. All it did is support that. And the thing is, if you're being gaslit, there's only there's certain people that are able to be gaslit. So you really need to look at your self-worth, your self-respect, those types of things, your self-love and self-trust. Because if you had all those in place, it wouldn't be as easy to gaslight you. Yeah. So there's a lot of healing that needs to take place inside of you to avoid ever encountering those situations again.
Definitely. And distance yourself from that person. There are situations where maybe you're not able to, but if you're able to distance yourself from that person, distance yourself and recognize how much better you feel when you're not around them.
It's going to take time because you really are going to you're going to build a dependency on this person. This probably is not the only tactic they're using. If you're being gaslit this bad, they're probably using lots of other tactics that we're actually going to in other podcasts. So we'll talk about those. We'll post those other podcasts below this one, and you can check out other tactics that are used as well.
Yeah, definitely. And self-care. Prioritize your well-being. Engage in activities that make you feel good so you can relax, because it's not easy just to say, or it's easy just to tell you, stay calm. But do those things that make you happy, that relaxes you so you can stay calm. And just remember, they want you to. They want you to explode, and just don't give them that power.
Yeah, build up your own self-worth. It's really hard, but sometimes doing those types of things actually instills a little bit of self-respect and self-worth inside yourself. So you start to say, wait a second.
Yeah. Remember, you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. You need more. Remember, you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. You deserve that. Yeah. Everybody deserves that.
Yeah.
And it's completely normal to feel overwhelmed question your sanity if you're experiencing gaslighting, but know that that's their issues. It's not your issues.
Yeah, you're dealing with a very wounded person.
Yeah.
And they're not going to act like it. They're going to act tough. They're going to act confident. They're going to act like they have everything together, which is how you feel like you're the crazy person, because they appear that they have it all put together.
Yeah.
And really, they don't. They're just amazing actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of actors, I mean, they're probably the best gaslighters they are.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So hopefully you learned a little bit more about gaslighting, what it is, why people would gaslight you, and then how you can come out of it. Because there is hope, and there are other things that you may be experiencing as well, as Candi talked about. We're going to go into love bombing, stonewalling, more of the things. And the more we know, the stronger we are, the better we can set the boundaries.
Yeah. Education is key. And that's what I found. In some of my relationships, I really focused on the perpetrator. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you behaving that way? I started realizing why they did it. And they really endured typically very abusive childhoods. And then I become very empathetic towards them, right? Like, oh, I understand why you're like this, because I understand the pain you went through. And I became very empathetic. That didn't matter to them at all. You having empathy, you wanting to love them, you wanting to heal that doesn't matter to somebody who's at this level. So that's when I really had to focus on me and try to understand what allowed me to put myself in that situation, to stay in that situation, years ago, to not say, wait a second, I'm not going to tolerate this. So I really had to focus on me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But I had to learn these things and educate myself so I could really wrap my head around it and understand what it was. Because if you're just being told these things, I was told certain people are gaslighters. I didn't understand what that entailed or how damaging it was. Yeah.
It can be damaging. So we end every podcast with a gratitude. Candi, what are you thankful for?
Well, I'm going to be thankful for the summer in Colorado. We're heading towards the end of the summer, and I'm super excited that I get to enjoy more warm weather, warm days, sun. I mean, I just absorb the sun prana like crazy. I can't get enough of it. Walking around in bare feet. I actually went to the mountains last weekend and did just that. Walked around the mountains in my naked bare feet, connected with the earth, sat in a stream. I loved it. How about you?
Amazing. Well, we're talking about being educated, and I'm thankful that I'm able to learn this stuff with you guys and just educate myself on what can happen and how we can battle it and just build upon it and become more empowered through education. So I guess I'm thankful for the internet, because there is so much information there. Everything you want to know is at your fingertips, literally.
All you have to do is access it.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you guys for listening to our podcast, Take Life by the Horns, where we are on a mission to empower 1 million women to step into their power, believe in their ability to live the life of their dreams, and fearlessly take life by the horns.
Empowering women by their life lessons and manifestation skills, helping you reach your dreams faster. They did it. They'll show you how without making the same mistakes they did. One cowgirl, bull-raising childless wife with multiple businesses and streams of income who is manifesting her dreams into reality. She will help you with your weight loss and wealth goals, making you healthy and wealthy. One badass boy mom with a passion for energy, healing, health, and fitness. She will help you with healing and overcoming limited beliefs to manifest the life you've always dreamt. It's Tenneile and Candace, taking life by the horns.